My high school bully got kidnapped and everyone thinks it's me. I swear I didn't mean it. When I said it, I was just angry, tired, humiliated. It was lunch, the whole cafeteria watching while Tyler, the school's golden boy, football star, everyone's favorite, poured milk over my head for fun. And I snapped. I stood up, dripping and shaking, and said loud enough for the lunch ladies to hear, "I wish he'd disappear." People laughed. Some gasped. Tyler just smirked like he'd won. That was last week. Now, 3 days. That's how long Tyler's been gone, with no word and nothing but a bloody hoodie left behind. The morning announcements keep calling his name. Police were at school today, talking to teachers. And every time I walk into a room, conversations stop. I catch whispers. That's the guy who hated Tyler. My math teacher paused mid-problem just to stare at me. Even my parents give me that look like they're not sure. And then there's my phone, with just one new text. Unknown number. You're safe now. Later that night. I don't know what woke me up. No sound, no dream. Just that electric feeling crawling up my spine, like my body already knew something my brain hadn't caught up to yet. It was dark, no streetlights in my room, just the faint silver glow from the moon. And my window was open, half open. The curtains swayed gently like they'd been touched, like someone had slipped in or out. My heart kicked into overdrive so fast I could hear it in my ears. I wanted to tell myself I'd just forgotten to close it earlier, but I never opened my window. There's a trick to the latch, and I always double-check it before bed. But now, it hung half open, swaying just enough to chill the air. Was it broken, or had someone else found a way in? I sat up slowly, scanning my room. Everything looked normal. Until I saw my desk. There was a folded piece of paper sitting dead center, like it had been placed there with care. It was my own to-do list from last week. My handwriting. But someone had circled English test in red pen and written under it, in perfect neat print, "Don't stress. I've got you." I stared at it for so long my eyes watered. "I've got you" could mean anything. Help with the test. Or help like Tyler won't be there anymore. The next day. School felt like a fever dream that day. People whispering in clumps, glancing at me and then away, like my face might burn them. I was late to history, rushing to swap books from my locker, when something thin and square slipped out and landed face down on the floor. I bent to pick it up, and froze. It was a Polaroid. Of me, sleeping. The picture was close up, my face half buried in my pillow, hair sticking up, mouth barely open. The kind of photo you'd only get from inside my room. I gripped the edge so hard my fingers ached. I actually looked over my shoulder, expecting someone to be there watching me find it. The hallway noise faded to this dull underwater hum. I flipped the photo over with trembling fingers. Neat handwriting, black ink. "You look peaceful." My stomach dropped so hard I felt dizzy. Peaceful? No one who's been in my room while I was unconscious should be calling me peaceful. I tried to brush it off, act normal. But by the time the sun set, my skin was crawling again. The library closed early, and the streets were quiet when I started home. At first, I didn't notice the footsteps behind me. They were soft, steady. But after 2 blocks, I realized they were matching mine exactly. I sped up. So did they. My pulse jumped into my throat. I could feel sweat prick at the back of my neck. I cut across to a convenience store, pretending to be fascinated by the gum display. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse. Tall figure. Hoodie up. Head tilted slightly toward me like they were listening. I stared at the candy rack until my hands stopped shaking enough to pay for a soda. When I stepped back outside, The street was empty. But when I reached my porch, there was a small paper bag sitting on the top step. Inside, my favorite snack. Not just the brand, but the exact flavor I always get. No note, no name, just knowledge. Too much knowledge. And here's the thing. Part of me wants to throw it out, lock every door, call the cops. The other part is wondering who cares enough to notice the stupid little details no one else does. A few days later. By the fourth night in a row of seeing that hooded figure just far enough away to make me doubt myself, I'd had enough. No more pretending I didn't notice. No more sitting around waiting for another "you looked peaceful" note like it was some twisted Secret Santa. So, when I heard the footsteps again, I didn't speed up. I stopped. And he stopped too. I turned slowly. My heart was hammering, my palms slick, but my voice came out steadier than I felt. "Take off the hood." For a moment, nothing. Then, hesitation. A slight tilt of the head like he was debating it. Finally, the hood slid back. Xavier. Of course it was Xavier, the quiet boy in my English class who sat by the window and doodled in the margins of his notes. The one who barely spoke unless a teacher called on him. And even then, his voice was soft like he was afraid it might break. Always there. Always in the background. And now, standing in front of me, cheeks flushed, lips parted like he'd just been caught stealing something. I took a step forward. "It's you." His eyes darted everywhere but me. Another step. Close enough to smell him now. Soap, cedar, and something faintly cinnamon. My stomach nodded. "You've been in my room." My voice came out low, rough, almost a growl. That got his gaze to finally lock with mine. His lips parted, but no words came out. "Why?" I pressed. My heart was hammering. "Why follow me? Watch me? Leave notes in my locker? What the hell do you want from me?" He flinched like I'd struck him. You like noticing you. Small things," he stammered. "Like how you never eat breakfast. How you hum when you're focused. How you hide your hands in your sleeves when you're nervous. And how Tyler," his jaw tightened, "made you look so small." My throat tightened. "Don't change the subject. Tell me the truth." I took another step. "You kidnapped him, didn't you?" "What?" His eyes went wide, almost panicked. "No, I didn't kidnap anyone." I laughed, sharp and humorless. "Really? Then what about the texts?" "You're safe now. I've got you." What else was I supposed to think? His breath hitched. "I meant no one would hurt you anymore," he said, voice low, almost pleading. Not that I took him." "How did you even get my number?" I asked, my voice hoarse. He looked embarrassed. "I asked one of the students from the class. Said I needed help with homework. I shouldn't have texted anonymously, but I wanted you to feel like someone was on your side." "So all of this?" I demanded. "The watching? The following? You think that makes me feel safe?" We were close enough now the air felt electric, like lightning waiting to strike. He swallowed hard, searching my face. Like you." "How did you get into my room?" I demanded. He looked down, ashamed. "Your window latch has been broken for months. I noticed it when I was walking by your house one night. I shouldn't have. I know it was wrong." "That's breaking and entering," I said, my voice shaking. "I know. I'm sorry. I won't ever do it again, I swear." His eyes met mine, genuinely regretful. I wasn't thinking straight. I looked at him, waiting for him to laugh or brush it off. But he just stood there, guilt flashing across his face. "You really freaked me out, Xavier," I said softly. That's not how you love someone." He winced. "I know. I messed up. I promise it'll never happen again. I want you to trust me, not be afraid of me." For the first time, I saw the real fear in his eyes, not of getting caught, but of losing any chance with me at all. The words landed like a punch, leaving me reeling, torn between fury, confusion, and something I didn't want to name. And then, well, isn't this precious? The voice cut through the night, smug and sharp. We both turned. Tyler, sunburnt flip-flops slapping against the pavement, a plastic gas station bag dangling from his hand. His grin was the same as always, cruel and careless. My stomach dropped. What the hell? He popped open a soda and took a swig, like we'd just bumped into him on a beach instead of the middle of this nightmare. Florida. Midterms are a joke. Figured a few days of sunshine was worth more than memorizing dates. I just stared, dumbfounded. You weren't kidnapped? He smirked. Kidnapped? Please, who would waste the effort? His eyes flicked at me, sharp as a knife. Though I gotta say, crying about me disappearing in front of the whole cafeteria, that was cute. Something hot and shameful twisted in my chest. Tyler tossed a candy bar in the air, caught it, and smirked wider. By the way, your mom's lasagna? 5 stars. Tell her thanks for feeding me while you were busy having your little breakdown. I blinked in disbelief. Of course. Tyler always knew how to charm adults. He probably showed up at my house, flashed that golden boy smile, and got a home-cooked meal from my mom while I was losing it. And just like that, he turned and strolled off whistling, as if the world hadn't just collapsed and reformed in the span of 30 seconds. Silence stretched. I turned back to Xavier, pulse still racing, and not because of Tyler anymore. His lips curved, just barely, like he knew what was happening to me. And in that moment, I realized something. Dangerous. I wasn't afraid of him, perhaps just curious. 3 days later, when Tyler finally showed up back at school, sunburnt, smirking, and very much not kidnapped, the whole rumor mill collapsed in on itself. People who'd side-eyed me in the hall suddenly muttered half apologies. Teachers stopped giving me that "is he dangerous?" look. Even the whispers died down. Life was supposed to go back to normal. But the only thing that didn't go back was Xavier. He didn't just lurk in shadows anymore. He started walking up to me, saying hi, sitting beside me in class, quiet but close. And before I realized what was happening, we were hanging out, which is how I ended up here. It was supposed to be just studying, a public place, safe, normal. But sitting across from Xavier at the far corner table in the library felt anything but normal. He had this way of leaning over his notebook like the world didn't exist beyond the page. Every few minutes he'd push it toward me, showing a neat row of math problems with these little doodles tucked into the corners. A tiny cat curled up in the loop of a 6. A flower growing out of the slope of a 2. "You're distracted," I teased, pointing at the drawing of what looked like a very angry mushroom. He tilted his head, pretending to think. "It's you. You're the angry mushroom." I snorted so loud the librarian shot me a look. He smirked but didn't apologize. Under the table, his foot brushed mine. Just barely. I thought he'd pull back, but he didn't. And neither did I. The air felt different after that. Like every page turn, every glance, every little movement was being noticed by the other person. I caught myself smiling like an idiot, pen frozen mid-sentence just looking at him. He looked up right then, like he felt me staring, and the tiniest blush colored his cheeks. A few days later, Friday night started with a text from me. "Horror movie marathon?" His reply came almost instantly. "Only if we order pizza." By the time he got to my house, I had the couch piled with blankets and a ridiculous amount of snacks. He kicked his shoes off and sank into the cushions like he'd been here 100 times before. We started with some old slasher film that was more funny than scary. Every time something gory happened, I'd glance over to see if he'd flinch. He didn't. At least, not until one particularly bad jump scare, when his hand shot out and grabbed my hoodie sleeve in a death grip. "You okay?" I whispered, half smiling. "I'm fine," he muttered, not letting go. The second movie was worse. Terrible acting, cheap effects, but we kept watching because it was giving us something to laugh about. Our shoulders were touching now, a slow lean that had happened without either of us talking about it. By the third movie, the plot was so ridiculous that we'd abandoned it completely. We were just talking, whispering about stupid things, sharing little stories, laughing under our breath like the couch had its own invisible bubble that no one else could enter. At some point, I realized my knee was resting against his. Not by accident. His fingers were still loosely curled around my sleeve, and neither of us seemed in any hurry to move. 3 days later. It started on a Tuesday. First period English. I sat down and found a folded piece of paper on my desk. No name, no markings. Just sitting there like it had been waiting for me. I opened it, expecting maybe a worksheet I'd dropped or a note from a teacher. Instead, it was a poem. Short, 4 lines, not sappy, not rhyming, just me. It talked about how I tap my pencil against the desk when I'm deep in thought. How I mouth words before I say them out loud. How I tug at my sleeves when I'm nervous. How there's this one moment when I'm about to laugh but holding it back, where I bite the inside of my cheek. I looked around the room, my heart doing this weird fast rhythm. He was at his desk, 2 rows over, eyes on his notebook like he had no idea what was in my hands. But I saw it. Just the smallest twitch of a smile when I slipped the paper into my pocket. By the end of the week, I had 3 more poems, all tucked away in the bottom drawer of my desk at home. I'd read them when no one was looking, grinning like a complete idiot. And every time I did, I caught myself wondering, when did someone noticing me go from creepy to kind of addictive? About a week later. It was the Monday morning hallway rush. Lockers slamming, people laughing, the usual chaos, when the air shifted. Tyler. Tan lines, sunburn peeling across his nose, looking like he'd just returned from conquering a beach somewhere instead of, disappearing for a few days. He strutted down the hall with that same smug confidence that used to make me tense up automatically. I was at my locker, assistant. Our hands were linked, no hesitation, no hiding. Tyler stopped when he saw us. His gaze dropped to our hands, then back up to my face. That smirk pulled at his mouth, the same one he used every time he pushed me into a locker. Seriously? Him? It was so perfectly Tyler. Like he couldn't imagine me choosing anyone who wasn't a carbon copy of him. I met his eyes without flinching. Yeah, him. There was a long beat where the noise of the hallway seemed to fade. Then Tyler's expression shifted. Just a flicker of something that looked like surprise, before he rolled his eyes and walked away, muttering something under his breath about weird couples. As soon as he was gone, Xavier's fingers tightened around mine. I looked at him, and he had this little smile. Not cocky, not smug, just proud. And for the first time in forever, I didn't feel small in Tyler's shadow. The next day. It was supposed to be a good day. I'd woken up to a stupidly sweet text from Xavier. "You're my favorite person to bother." And for most of first period, I couldn't stop smiling like an idiot. Then I heard it, passing by the lockers, just loud enough to catch. Yeah, he's only dating him 'cause he feels bad. After the whole stalker thing. The laugh that followed wasn't kind. I told myself to ignore it. I knew it was Tyler. He couldn't just let me have one good thing. But I was not going to give him the satisfaction of getting to me. I know this too shall pass. People talk. People forget. People are just bored. But by lunch, I'd heard 3 different versions of the same sentence. My ears burned every time. When Xavier found me after last period, something was already off. His usual soft grin wasn't there. He wouldn't quite meet my eyes. We started walking together like always, but his hands were shoved deep in his hoodie pockets. His pace just a little too fast. "You okay?" I asked. "Yeah," he said, but it was too quick, too flat. We passed a group of kids whispering. I caught my name, his name. And he suddenly muttered, "Maybe we shouldn't hang out so much at school." That hit like a punch I didn't see coming. Because of a rumor? He finally looked at me. His voice was quieter but sharper. Because maybe they're right. Maybe you're just here because you feel sorry for me. And then he turned, walking off before I could even open my mouth. I stood there for maybe half a second before my body made the decision for me. My chest felt too tight, like every breath was catching on something sharp, and I just ran. "Xavier," I called. He kept going. Shoulders hunched. Hood up. I caught up just outside the side doors of the school, grabbing his wrist. "Will you just stop for 2 seconds?" He turned, his eyes stormy, his mouth opening, probably to tell me to leave him alone. But I didn't let him. "I like you," I blurted. That froze him. Not because I feel bad. Not because of anything that happened before. And not because of some weird hero complex, okay? I stepped closer, heart in my throat. "I like you because you see me. The weird me. The overthinking, emotionally repressed, comic book hoarding me. And you don't try to fix me. You just get it. You make me feel safe." His jaw shifted, like he was chewing on my words. Then his eyes softened, the tension in his shoulders dropping just a little. "You mean that?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper. Every single word. For a long moment, he just stood there. The late afternoon light hit his face in that golden way that makes you notice freckles you've never seen before. Then, slowly, like he was giving me every chance to pull away, he stepped forward. Our foreheads bumped first, then our noses. Then his lips brushed mine, tentative and almost shy. It wasn't movie perfect. My bag nearly slipped off my shoulder. I was smiling too much for it to be smooth. But it was warm and real, and so good. When we finally pulled apart, he was grinning like he didn't know how to stop. The next day, we walked into school holding hands. I could feel the stares, the whispers ripple behind us like a wake. My old self might have flinched under it. Instead, I just shrugged. Xavier glanced at me. "You good?" I squeezed his hand. "Yeah, I'm good." That night, just as I was settling in bed, my phone buzzed. "You looked really pretty in 3rd period." I couldn't help but grin as I typed back, "Stop watching me in class." His reply was instant, "Never." And for the first time in a long time, I realized being seen wasn't scary anymore. Not with him. 7 years later, the train station was quieter than usual. Late winter air bit at my fingers as I stepped off the platform, duffel bag slung over my shoulder. My breath made pale clouds in the dim light, the kind that made every sound. A distant footstep, a creak of metal, echo sharper. I'd just gotten back from a week-long work trip. My head was still buzzing with the news I couldn't wait to tell Xavier. But as I crossed the nearly empty parking lot, something prickled at the back of my neck. That old instinct I thought I'd outgrown. Someone was watching me. I glanced over my shoulder. Empty. Still, my pace quickened. Another sound, softer this time, but closer. Boots on pavement. My heart kicked up. 7 years is a long time, but not long enough to forget how it feels when your body knows it's not alone. "Hello?" My voice came out steadier than I felt. No answer. I reached the far corner of the lot, under the single flickering streetlight, and a shadow moved from behind a pillar. I froze. Then he stepped into the light. Xavier. Older now, hair a little longer, jaw a little sharper. But the same eyes. Soft, knowing, and locked entirely on me. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. You scared the hell out of me. He smiled. That same small secret smile that always made me want to kiss him senseless. Sorry, I like watching you walk. You've always been easy to find in a crowd. I shook my head, already grinning. 7 years, and you're still secretly watching me? Yes, it has been 7 years. Over the years, we stayed together. Through awkward college dorms, crappy apartments, late-night study sessions, and long train rides home. Trust took time. But little by little, we rebuilt it, honest this time. Xavier learned to give me space. I learned how to let someone in. Sure, it wasn't easy. We had to talk about it, the way it started, the crossed lines and mistakes. Xavier apologized more than once, and we figured out how to set real boundaries. He learned that loving someone meant letting them breathe, not watching them sleep. Trust took patience, but we got there. Always, he said, without missing a beat. Before I could fire back, he nodded at my bag. How was the trip? I dropped it on the ground, the words bursting out of me. I got it. The promotion. They told me this morning. His grin widened, but there was no surprise in it. Only pride. I know. My brow furrowed. You know? He stepped closer, pulling something small from his coat pocket. Because I knew it was only a matter of time. You're you. You always get where you're going. And then I saw it. The little velvet box. My brain short-circuited for a second. Are you? Yeah, he said softly, opening it to reveal a simple silver band. His voice was steady, but his eyes were wet. I've been in love with you since the first time you told me to stop watching you in class. I never stopped. I don't want to. The cold air around us disappeared. All I could feel was the warmth in my chest and the way my hands were shaking when I grabbed his. Yes, I said, already laughing and crying at the same time. God, yes. He slid the ring on my finger. A perfect fit, of course. And kissed me right there under the flickering streetlight. People might have stared. Cars might have honked. I didn't care. 7 years ago, being watched had terrified me. Now, it just meant that someone had always been there. Always would be. The end. If someone promised to watch over you for the rest of your life, would you find it creepy or romantic? Thanks for watching. Subscribe to become part of our Rainbow Force, and consider joining our membership for early access and exclusive content. Stay wholesome.